Time to re-up YouTube. We are back with another episode of the season preview, and today we are in the top 3, and to start us off we have the Philadelphia 76ers. It seems like every year the Sixers are going out in some sad way, whether it's in a series where Ben Simmons has a 1-point game, or it's in a series where Ben Simmons passes the ball on Trae Young at the rim. And it's not just the Ben Simmons thing, because this past year they suffered another disappointing L as they lost to the Heat in 6 games because James Harden looked like a shell of himself. The Sixers have yet to even make the Eastern Conference Finals in the Joel Embiid era. But with the first full season of James Harden and Joel Embiid on the way, with another offseason for James Harden to get his body as good as possible, and the additions they've made to the roster, I can't lie, I am super high on the Philadelphia 76ers, and I expect them to be a top 2 to 3 seed in the Eastern Conference at least. This is a team that has depth. This is a team that has nice spacing. This is a team that has 2 stars and 1 superstar. They also play defense. What isn't really to like with this Philadelphia 76ers team? Some of you guys may have issues and concerns, but I'm gonna break down why you should buy stock into the Sixers this upcoming season. As I mentioned earlier, this team upgraded their roster with the supporting pieces around Harden and Embiid, which when you look at last season, that was somewhat of a weakness for them, especially when Danny Green went out in Game 6. Players like Matisse Thybulle, Shake Milton, and also Georges Niang, they're not bad players. They can contribute in certain areas when needed be, like Niang with spacing. Thybulle, he's one of the better perimeter defenders in the league, but none of those guys are legitimately consistent at all, and that's really a problem for this team whenever Harden is not on the court. Sure, you have Joel Embiid, but somebody's got to initiate offense. Somebody's got to be consistent enough on that end of the ball to keep that team afloat when he's not on the court. And that's where I think the pickup of De'Anthony Melton is going to come in real big for this roster this season. Melton is one of the better rotational players in the league, as he showed in Memphis last season. He shot around 38% from 3 on over 5 attempts a game, along with a steal and a half and 11 points per game. Melton has proven that he's one of the better bench players in the league, and I think on a team like Philly he could have his best season yet. As a side bet, I wouldn't be surprised if he won the 6th Man of the Year next season, or at bare minimum was in contention. They also picked up Daniel House, who I like. I'm not expecting him to make a humongous impact on the team, but he's a really good 3-point shooter. He has that chemistry with Harden in Houston, and he's also a flexible player in general, not just a shooter or defender, flexible player. You can use him in a lot of different ways on both ends of the court, and I think he's gonna fit like a glove alongside Joel Embiid and James Harden. Another one of their pickups that's gonna fit like a glove, that's in the starting lineup and not on the bench, is PJ Tucker. PJ over the last 2 to 3 seasons has rejuvenated his career. I truly thought when he left Houston he was probably going to be out the league soon just due to his age, but I was completely wrong. Over the last 2 seasons with the Heat and Bucks, he's had some of the most successful parts of his career, and obviously the biggest reason is because he's still productive on the defensive side of the ball, and offensively he still has some kind of value. Of course, he's not the perfect defender or 3-point shooter, but he can contribute. From those corners, he is money, as last year with the Heat he shot nearly 42% from behind the arc. Throw in the fact that defensively he can really guard 1 through 4 at times because of how small the power forward position is, and the flexibility on that end is through the roof with this team. He truly is the perfect fit alongside Joel Embiid in the front court, and obviously alongside James Harden, he already has that chemistry down pat. Those driving kicks, I'm expecting it to be just like old times. But while we're on the topic of their front court starting lineup, that brings me to Tobias Harris. Tobias, in my opinion, is still one of the most underrated players in the league. I feel like people look at his contract, which trust me, it is pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie, but they come to this conclusion that he's a bad player because of it, or that he's overrated, when everybody always shits on him because he's overpaid in the first place. Tobias is still a really good player that can be impactful on both sides of the ball, and his contract is not a reflection of how good he is, it's a reflection of how incompetent the organization is. But as I said, Tobias is still really good. He's capable of putting the ball on the floor and creating for himself, even though he's not elite at that. He's an improved 3-point shooter that can play off the ball, not only as a spot up guy, but also as a cutter. He's also a nice passer, but I think the one thing that he's improved on throughout his time in Philadelphia has to be the defense. Last year, Tobias was playing really well on Pascal Siakam in my personal opinion, and I think over the last 2 seasons overall, he's seen a noticeable improvement, whether it's his pick and roll defense, his lateral quickness, defending wings on the perimeter. Tobias has noticeably improved on that side of the ball. And next year, I'm expecting him to continue his ways of giving you around 15 to 17 points a game with really good defense, which is what this team needs on the wing. Him along with PJ Tucker is a very flexible front court alongside Joel Embiid and Harden. At the 3 and 4, they can play either position and guard multiple positions, and considering that they are both capable of playing off the ball as shooters, whether in the corner or at the top of the key, wherever they are, it presents so much flexibility for this team's offense and defense, and I love it. Versatility is the name of the game these days, and the Sixers definitely have that. But let's take a pause from their front court for a while and let's look at their backcourt of James Harden and Tyrese Maxiell. Let's start off with the latter in Tyrese Maxiell. Maxiell is one of the most intriguing young talents in this league today. I've seen many people believe that this year is going to be a breakout season for Tyrese Maxiell, and I definitely do believe that. I don't think he's going to become a superstar by any means, but I think he's going to take a jump to being around a 20 to 23 point per game scorer. Alongside a playmaker like James Harden that can give him great looks, while also playing with a big like Joel Embiid that demands so much attention, Maxiell's job is going to be fairly simple. Be the secondary ball handler on the team while being able to attack the rim consistently, make plays for others whenever needed be, and still be a consistent defender. All he has to do is just take his production from last year and just increase it, and I know that sounds really simple, but sometimes the answer is that easy. Maxiell has already shown the ability to beat guys off the dribble with a quick first step. As a three-point shooter, he has come a long way from his days in college. On the defensive end, he's no Tony Allen, but he's still very capable to defend perimeter players, and that goes back to his days in Kentucky. The only questions I have about a guy like Tyrese Maxiell is how impactful he can be offensively without a James Harden or Joel Embiid, but that truly does not matter because he is playing with them. And a guy like James Harden is one of the best playmakers in this league today. Even if he's not what he used to be, he's still a very effective playmaker just off of his IQ alone. Which leads me into the bearded one himself, James Harden. My goodness, what a rough ending to the playoffs for James Harden. Well, I guess we say that every single season, let's be real here. Harden finds new ways to disappoint in the playoffs every single year. And unlike many others, I love James Harden. I want him to win a ring. He played for my city, Houston, for so long. I think his peak years in Houston were really underappreciated, not only by fans and the media, but even by myself, I can't lie. Because when you saw Harden last year, he did not have the same burst that he had in Houston. The ability to beat guys off the dribble and break them down on the perimeter, it just wasn't the same. And a huge chunk of Harden's game is the ability to not only beat guys off the dribble, but get to the rim and apply that kind of pressure. And though Harden can get to the rim, it's just not the same way that it used to be. And for a player that handles the ball as much as James Harden, you need to have that kind of gravity towards your game. And that's why this season is such a big year for him, because if he doesn't bounce back in a major way, it's going to lessen the defensive attention that he is given from by opposing defenses. He'll still be a good and valuable player towards this roster, trust me, but Harden has to be able to break down guys on the perimeter and create his own shot consistently. I'm not even asking for him to be peak James Harden. I'm asking for you to be 2021 Brooklyn Nets James Harden. You can still be a good scorer, average over 20 plus, but your playmaking has to be on point. 2021 James Harden is one of the most underrated parts of his career in my personal opinion. People do not talk about that era of him enough. I know that it was literally just one season, but it was such a good part of his career that I don't see how people can just overlook it. He was able to go out there and give you around 24 to 25 points per game. He was constantly beating guys off the dribble, but he was in a mode to set other guys up on the team. And whether it was playing with Kyrie Irving or occasionally Kevin Durant, or the role players like Joe Harris and Nicholas Claxton, Harden proved yet again that if you just give him some role players, you're automatically a 50-win team, which is why before that injury, he was my pick for the MVP. And this year in Philly, that's all I'm asking for you to do. Just be a consistent source of offense that can be efficient enough while setting up your teammates due to the attention that the defense is giving you, because I assume your body has recovered to the point that you can have that burst again. It may not be the Houston Harden in 2019 or 2018, but if it's just 85% of that, trust me, that is enough. Because unlike those Houston years, you actually have a #1 option, which brings me to the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joel Embiid, my African brother. Embiid is smack dab in the middle of his prime, and I have to say the last 2 seasons have been a joy to watch of his. Embiid is one of the most skilled bigs that we have ever seen. We're talking about a guy that over the last 2 seasons has consistently averaged around 28 to 30 points per game, even leading the league in scoring last year, being obviously effective on the boards with around 11 rebounds a night, has grown as a passer, especially after that 8 turnover game. He has made it a point of emphasis to be a better decision maker out of the post, even though a lot of it is basic reads. Let's be honest though, it's a huge improvement from where he used to be. And as a scorer, this guy is so versatile. He's a good mid-range shooter. He can obviously attack the rim. He's a good post player, great footwork with the ability to score on any part of the court because he can also shoot from behind the 3-point line. And because of how physical his game is, people can't stop him, which leads them to fouling him, and he consistently gets to the free throw line more than most players, not just bigs, but players in the NBA. And on the defensive end, Embiid is no slouch. He's actually very good on that side of the ball. He can switch on the perimeter a little bit and move his feet. Not saying he's Bam Adebayo, but he's not some Enes Kanter or Nikola Jokic there. He's a good shot blocker and rim protector. And on a team like this that has some perimeter defenders like a DeAnthony Melton, a PJ Tucker, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxiell, you could throw in a guy like Matisse Thybulle, obviously. I think Joel Embiid has more than enough help to anchor a top 5 defense in the NBA, obviously when he is healthy, which is the caveat to all of this. Of course, James Harden has to step up. Of course, guys like Tyrese Maxiell has to take that leap. And the supporting pieces around these guys have to play their role well enough for them to win a championship, or at least make the finals, or hell, even make the conference finals for the first time in the Embiid era. But the one thing that I truly cannot predict, which made this team a huge wild card for me, is the health of Joel Embiid. Embiid throughout his entire career has only played over 65 games one time, and that was this past year with him playing 68 games. 65 is already a pretty low bar, and the fact that he's only done it one time in his career is pretty sad. If we're being real, the injuries is probably why he doesn't have an MVP right now or even an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, as not only has he suffered injuries in the regular season, but he suffered injuries in the postseason. We just saw last year as he played a majority of the season healthy outside of obviously the COVID stuff, which I don't think really counts. But what happens in round 1? Somehow he finds a way to break his face. And at the end of the day, I believe even though James Harden looked pretty bad at times against Miami, he was forced to have to actually do a lot more than he should be doing because Joel Embiid is obviously the go-to guy, #1 option. And if Embiid was healthy against Miami, I definitely think that outcome would have been a lot different. But unfortunately, he wasn't. Just like he was playing on a torn meniscus in the playoffs 2 years ago. Just like how he was playing with another broken face in his first playoff appearance. Injuries have just been a huge part of Joel Embiid's career, but I definitely believe that now alongside James Harden, that's less of a load offensively in the regular season, and hopefully Doc Rivers, I would give Joel Embiid some off days, for real. Give him some load management. If anybody in the league needs it or even deserves it, it should be a Joel Embiid, straight up. So when I look at this roster as a whole, it's very obvious that certain guys have to reach some expectations, but I don't think it's impossible at all. It shouldn't be impossible for Tyrese Maxiell to average over 20+ points per game. Hell, he just did that in the playoffs this past year. It shouldn't be impossible for me to ask James Harden to go back to his 2021 self by getting himself in better shape. Hell, he said that he lost 100 pounds this year, right? And obviously he is joking when he says that, but with him in his early 30s now, conditioning is more important than ever. The only thing that truly worries me about this team and makes me hesitant to put them at #2 or #1 is the health of Joel Embiid. All we can do as far as that is concerned is cross our fingers and hope for the best. But hey, you guys, that is just my opinion on the Sixers. If you disagree, let me know down below in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and press that bell for post notifications to stay up to date with the latest content on this channel. Stay tuned for tomorrow because #2 is going to be dropping, and hey, I might even do a double upload because tomorrow is opening tip-off, just saying. But that concludes this video. You guys stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.